Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we're going over the top tens we've done recently, a little more in depth of why we like these games so much and why they're in our top tens, and I guess kind of the reason why we keep playing them and keep going back to them. And we're going to start off with one of my favorites, Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a game. Again, a lot of my games in the top 10 probably date back to like childhood games. And Bayonetta is one of those. Playing Bayonetta on the Wii U at a cousins at first, and then a lot on my own. It just to me, it's a very fun game. I later picked it up on Steam and I play it on PC every now and then. But it's just I guess like an addicting game to play just because it's one of those classic beat 'em up styles. There's so much shit going on in the game. You're shooting at everything. There's all these cool upgrades you can do. The story is insane. The story is like it's hard to explain, but it's very entertaining. It's very like I would say maybe like anime type Japanese style, classic Nintendo style of storytelling, and it has one of my favorite endings in gaming because a lot of games don't really have ends after the credits, and this is one of those games that doesn't do it just once but twice. So that's what I really like about the game, and this is one of the games on the list where I haven't really played every game in the series, besides one of the other games in the list. I only played Bayonetta 1. I don't really have an interest to play the second or the third, just because I like how the story ended, and I just...
Good one-off.
Yeah, the one just does it for me. I don't really have an interest in getting the others, and to be honest, to get the others, I believe they're on Switch, or you could get them on Wii U, and it's just... to me, it's just not worth the price. If they come out on PC, maybe I'll pick them
sale,
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's always nice.
But I want to ask you about Bayonetta. Do you know?
I know jack shit. That's why
Just the Smash.
yeah.
Smash
So my only interactions with Bayonetta is they put her in the Smash 4 originally back in like 2015. It was a year after the game was released as DLC, I believe. And I was like, who the hell is this? And they instantly made her like the best in the game. Like she was like the highest tier character. So every time I would play against her online, I would always get my fucking ass whooped. She would like chain combo me all the time. And I was like, all right, I do not like this character. Like that's
Screw this kid.
yeah, that's what I got a bad first impression from Bayonetta. But then they nerfed her so much in Ultimate, so I don't hate her as much as I used to. I was also a dumb like 13-year-old at the time, so I was
But yeah, I Smash. I don't really play it as her as much in Smash. More Snake.
Yeah.
I've liked. I guess Falco.
Falco's
Is
good.
where out too. Yeah, but back to Bayonetta. Yeah, to me it's so weird that she's in Smash. But again, why is
It's weird,
Snake
yeah.
is in Smash
Snake's
too?
in
So that's...
Smash. They put. Remember at the time, Sonic being announced in 2008 for Brawl was everyone was like, "What the hell are we doing?"
Yeah, freaking Steve. I don't know.
Steve's the wildest one.
Yeah, but back to Bayonetta before we move on. It's just one of those games I had to put in the top 10 just because of how much time I've dedicated to it. It's always fun to replay, and I highly recommend it.
All right.
But yeah, next a game I've never played
All right.
is Shantae.
So yeah, I could talk more in depth about the other games because I have played multiple Shantae games, unlike you with Bayonetta. So Pirate's Curse is the one I put in my top 10, and I like it so much because the plot, it starts off with basically the ammo baron coming in and storming the town that Shantae lives in, and like invading, trying to take it over. And you stop the ammo baron instantly, the easiest boss in the game. And then the guards come over and they're like, "You've been attacking this upstanding citizen," and you're like, "What the hell?" So they like threaten to cut off Shantae's hair basically, because she like whipped him to death or whatever.
Oh,
But luckily that problem absolves later, and then the next plot, we get into the next plot really quickly. Risky comes in and basically asks for your help and it's kind of crazy because Risky's actually like the main villain in the first two Shantae games, so it's kind of like an unexpected thing. So the whole game you basically travel with Risky, trying to get different stuff. You end up all of her pirate stuff gets stolen. Risky's a pirate basically.
How does it play?
It's basically like Castlevania or Metroid. That style of game.
Okay.
It's pretty fun. So yeah. Also, I'm getting into spoilers here a little bit, but at the end of Shantae Risky's Revenge, which is the second game in the series, Risky basically takes away Shantae's genie powers, so she's not a genie in this game, which is the only game she's not a genie in.
Oh, does that change the gameplay mechanics?
Yeah, it makes it so the only thing she can do is use her hair to whip.
Oh.
But you get upgrades as you progress. You end up finding Risky's pirate equipment, and you end up using it for yourself.
Oh,
so it's kind of cool.
It's a gameplay mechanic to switch things up. Okay.
But at the end of the game, spoilers, she does get her genie
back.
powers
Yeah.
back. So, I have not played Seven Sirens or Half Genie Hero yet, so I'm looking forward to trying those out. Once again, the Pirate's Curse is the one I most recently played, and that was like a month and a half ago.
When did the newest one come out?
The newest one came out, I think, in 21. I think that's when Seven Sirens came out, and next year, Risky's Revolution's coming out, and that interesting thing about the game coming out is that it's actually a game that was originally supposed to come out for the GBA. It was supposed to be a sequel to the original Shantae, but it's coming out now because it was scrapped back then.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's going to be set back to the sequel of the original game.
Okay.
So it's basically a prequel.
Pretty cool. And what platform is it on? Is it on Steam? Is it?
Yeah. So all of them except for the original one is on Steam.
Okay.
But they're also so originally the first one came out for Game Boy Color, and then the second one came out for DSi. Risky's Revenge came out for DSi, and then the Pirate's Curse was the first one to come out for consoles. It came out for the 360, and I don't think it came out for PS4, but it was launched with Steam, and yeah.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. That is interesting.
I got into the Shantae series through Ray, basically. Ray achievement hunts, and he was going through those games. I was like, this looks interesting, so I tried it out for myself, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, Ray Navarez Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I have to check it out. And next, you meant Sonic Adventures 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sonic, the first one. But
maybe.
Yeah, this is some very. I played a lot of the Sonic games. Adventures 2 is great.
Yeah, I love the characters. They're great. Except for like Amy or something, but
Amy, yeah. Sonic and Knuckles.
Knuckles is great. Yeah. Sonic 3 Knuckles. That almost made the list actually. I prefer 2D Sonic over 3D Sonic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
3D Sonic is when it gets messed up. The game series.
I don't know if they know how to like make a good. Well, they've done it. Colors is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's just they haven't gone to that formula very often, and if they went to that formula consistently, it would be a better series.
Yeah, but now it's kind of
Yeah.
It's just there.
But Sonic Adventure 2 is kind of cool because just like Risky's Revenge, where you get to help out Risky, or sorry, not Risky's Revenge, Pirate's Curse.
Yeah.
Where you help out Risky, you kind of get to play as the villains in Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh, yeah.
After you complete the hero story, and then you be the villains, and then the villains and the heroes work together at the end and take down the big boss.
That's a cool mechanic in the game,
Yeah.
and the game's probably one of the most fun Sonic games.
Yeah.
It's good all around. Sonic Unleashed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one's fun too. And
I believe Sonic Adventure 2 originally came out for GameCube and PS2, and then eventually obviously got ported to Steam and all the next-gen consoles.
but yeah,
Or not next-gen consoles, but just Steam in general. I don't know. I don't know if they got put to Xbox or... They might have, but I'm not sure about that one, actually.
but yeah. Do you like the Sonic show?
Which one?
I don't even know. I guess the show that was mainly out when we were kids.
Sonic X?
Yeah.
That was pretty good, yeah. I didn't really like the human character, Christopher or
Oh,
whatever.
no.
He sucked.
Yeah,
But-
those were just fun.
But it was an alright show, yeah. It was good as a kid.
Yeah, Knuckles' voice actor was great.
He
in
was
that.
funny, yeah.
And then I guess we could move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
Another
to your next game,
shorter and sweeter one. Spec Ops: The Line.
which by the way is the full name.
Yeah, is a very great game. It is technically from a series called Spec Ops, which is really old video games back in the day. Think like Medal of Honor-esque games. But this game, Spec Ops: The Line, has nothing to do with them. It's kind of its own thing. But what I really love about this movie, it's like Apocalypse Now. I mean, the game, pretty much. You've seen Apocalypse Now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like that, but the game. You get sent to Dubai, and you think you're the good guys trying to track down a general that defected. And then it turns out, you're doing worse and worse things to get the mission done, and it turns out you're not really the good guys. It's a really interesting mechanic with the video game, because the video game slowly gets darker and darker, and your characters get dirtier and dirtier, and you're killing more and more. And the loading screens are really cool because they have like lines that say like, you turn back now, or it's getting worse from this, and you're not the hero of the story. It's a really awesome mechanic in video games when they do that. When you see the destruction of a character.
Yeah. Like that's why you like Breaking Bad too.
Yeah, Breaking Bad, Walter White, you see the destruction of the character. It to me, in video games, is almost harder
to emulate that.
Yeah, and especially since you're playing as
Because
the character.
the video game's a lot quicker than like a TV show that goes upon
Yeah.
a longer time.
And in a video game, you gotta, like, you're playing as the character. So the video game does the attempts of, like, everything's a choice. Right. So, like, you're killing these people too in the video game.
It harder.
So you're just as bad as the character or whatever. And the thing with this game, Nolan North does a great job, is there's multiple endings in this game, and all the endings are very interesting. And it has one of the most iconic lines that you may have heard, is "Welcome to Dubai."
Yeah, okay.
Gentlemen, welcome to Dubai.
Well, now I know what game you're talking about.
Yeah, that's one of the endings in that game.
Gotcha.
Where he says that line.
That's funny.
And that line was very popular, I feel like, back in the day. But it's a great video game. I think I bought it, so I have it, but I think it was recently delisted on Steam because it uses a lot of first-party music.
Okay.
And I think they ran out of their licensing with the Rolling Stones. And everyone knows how shitty the Rolling Stones
Mick Jagger
are.
was pissed.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones screwed up the Verve, Bittersweet Symphony. Yeah, that band. But yeah, it's a game I recommend. It's kind of a game you play once and you're done, but it sticks with you.
Gotcha.
I don't know about replayable. It's replayable in terms of mechanics. Mechanics are basic. It's a third-person shooter. It's very basic. It's nothing insanely special, but the story's great, and the story hits that sweet spot if you watch it once. It's like some of those movies that are really good if you just see them once, and don't.
That's all you need.
Yeah, don't look back at them. And I think that's what this game is.
Nice.
But next we'll go with Metal Gear Solid 4.
Speaking of movies.
The game is pretty much a movie. Yeah. It's a lot of cutscenes, and more cutscenes than gameplay even. But to me, it's a very awesome conclusion to the Metal Gear, to a very confusing and great series. The Metal Gear series is a very fun series to play. It has so many characters in it, and it's so hard to understand the story. You almost need to
sit down and watch a
video about how the story is set up. Because if you just play Metal Gear Solid 1 through Metal Gear Solid 5, it wouldn't really make sense either, because Metal Gear Solid 5 takes place during Metal Gear Solid 3, and Metal Gear Solid 2 takes place right before Metal Gear Solid 4, so it's all jumbled up. But with 4, what I love it is just the kind of the conclusion of the characters with Big Boss Snake. We get to see the conclusion of his character, and it's kind of sad if you played through the series, you know how much of a badass Big Boss is, and you get to see him more broken down And Snake's very like broken and old, and nanomachines and aging is getting to him, and we get to see the conclusion to his character, which I like. And the music is great. Music in all the Metal Gear Solids is probably the best. Some of the best in video games.
David Hayter's great.
Yeah, David Hayter is great. One of the best voice actors out there. And David Bowie also, because
Actually nice, unlike Mick Jagger.
yeah, Kojima has an obsession with Bowie, I guess.
Okay.
So there's just so many, Bowie songs in it, and also, well, Diamond Dogs. There's a song, Diamond Dogs, David Bowie.
Right.
So yeah,
That's cool.
It's just a very good series. It's something you have to get into though. You can't just play one game casually
And then be like, that's it.
yeah, you get super confused. It's something you have to commit to. Another game I didn't put on this list that I really love is The Witcher. The Witcher's the same way. The stories are not connected, no way, absolutely, but like they're both insanely good games. Like they're worth the pay. Like you're gonna get your hours. It's a great game. It's just you're gonna have to commit to it,
Right.
Because if you don't, then it's just gonna be sitting there forever. But yeah, it's a great game. I think most people have Metal Gear Solid 3 as their favorite Metal Gear Solid.
I think that might be what Grayson has, right?
Yeah,
His favorite.
which I get. Metal Gear Solid 3 I think has honestly just that's when like just the story is all there, and the story's a little more understandable in 3. It's easier to get.
Right.
It's not as insane as Metal Gear Solid
That might
2.
that might be like why it's more appealing.
Yeah,
for people.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is like if you play it, you'll be like, "What?" If that's your first game, you'll be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be kind of weird to start off with the second game in the series, you know.
Well, yeah, true, but Metal Gear Solid 4, I think is a perfect send off for Metal Gear fans. But if you were gonna get into Metal Gear Solid, either play 3 or 5.
Gotcha.
And then you really get into it. But
Makes sense.
let's move on to again. Wasn't in my top 10, but it's one of my favorite games. Also, is Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, my favorite first-person shooter of all time. The characters are really funny. There's a lot of cool special infected that you got to kill. And then obviously the different places you go, like the fucking Dark Carnival, all those places.
Dark Carnival.
That one in
Swamp.
particular, tried playing on Realism with fucking Andrew and Grant. It was terrible.
Dark Carnival. To me, Left 4 Dead 2. I like Left 4 Dead 1 as much as I do, but Left 4 Dead 2, since it has the Left 4 Dead 1 maps and characters,
Makes it more like hashed out because you get to play as everybody.
complete. Yeah, and it has more special infected than it did in 1.
And the kind of cool thing about the passing as well is that you get to see the past characters and they help you out, except for Bill.
Yeah, yeah. And the lines are super cool, and it's crazy that it's comedic, but they fleshed out the characters so much. There's so many dialogue, so
And
much dialogue.
They grow so much as you progress through each particular story.
How they interact with each other, because they don't even say their names when you're playing in the hotel.
Name's Nick.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, loud lady. It's just
Never heard of them.
yeah, it's such a good series. I've probably, besides Skyrim, I've put the most amount of hours in any other game in Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, great game.
It's the game that keeps on giving. It's very fun. The mods is what keeps it going.
Yeah,
Um,
not much need more be said about it because if you haven't played it already, then you should give it a shot.
Exactly. And I know it's not a zombie game. They're technically infected. But it's the greatest, I think it's the greatest zombie game of all time.
Gotcha. I might agree with that. Yeah.
But yeah. And then Castle Crashers is next.
Back to me with that one. So yeah, it's just it's one of the first like, I guess 4-player games that I played in general. And had a lot of fun with it. Each night has a lot of different abilities and stuff, like different magic and all that. And the cool thing about it is that yes, it is co-op and you work together to save all the princesses and all that. But you also, after you get to the princess, you get to duke it out for the princess, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of like a versus and co-op in one game. And yeah, if you have 3 friends, it's a lot of fun, basically.
Yeah, it's one of those classic, I think, 360 arcadey games.
That's what you think of as, like, that's a classic 360 game.
Yeah, and they're coming out with a DLC soon, which is crazy that the game is still supported after all this time.
It is. It was released, like 2 years ago for Switch and Steam?
Yeah.
So that's what, or I guess, was it on Steam before that?
I think it was on Steam for a while.
But I think it, like,
Just 2012.
It updated to the Switch version.
Yeah.
Is what I mean. But yeah, it, very fun game. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to talk about. It's very bare bones, very
short and sweet.
big beat 'em up game as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
A
a lot of poop in that game as well. So,
yeah, that too.
if you're into poop, there you go.
And angry cats.
Angry cats.
But I guess next to me, Oblivion, of the Elder Scrolls series is it's a great game. There's a lot in the franchise, a lot of games in the Elder Scrolls, a lot to talk about, really, lore-wise. We could talk for hours about the lore. That's what makes the game great. And again, open world game. You make your character, you make your story, which is very immersive.
Which entry is this in the Elder Scrolls series?
This is 4.
Okay.
The Elder Scrolls 4.
Gotcha.
Well, it's not technically the 4th game, but it's the 4th mainline game, if that makes sense. But yeah, I believe it's Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind,
yeah.
Oblivion, Skyrim.
Okay, I'm only familiar with Morrowind.
Yeah.
Oblivion and Skyrim.
But yeah, Morrowind is great. I've played it. I've beaten the story. To me, I may have liked Morrowind. It may be my favorite if we were older. But I didn't really grow up with it. I grew up with Oblivion and Skyrim more, and I went back and played Morrowind. And everyone said Morrowind was so much, or a lot of people say Morrowind's story is a lot better, which I agree to a point in the lore, and the freedom of what you have in the story is great, but it just looks terrible.
Yeah.
It looks so bad.
That's the thing, like,
you need mods to make it look somewhat okay. Oblivion, to me, sure, it's very goofy, and it looks very goofy, but it's actually, you can see where everything it is, and it actually looks like, I wouldn't call it good, but it looks pretty in scenarios.
It's like comparing Elder Scrolls to kind of Rockstar. It's like going from GTA, if you've played GTA 4 all your life, it's like going from that to 3. I prefer 3, but, you know, it's not going to look as good as 4 or 5.
So it's just the way. And to me, Oblivion, it keeps that great, rich story like Morrowind, and it keeps that freedom of doing kind of whatever you want to do. And I really like the story because you're not like in an... as much as I like Skyrim, you're like this insanely special person that has powers.
Right.
And Morrowind's kind of like
You're
this...
just a regular guy.
Yeah, Oblivion, you're just a dude in prison who's told, like, hey, you gotta go... Like, it's funny, you're kind of escort the real hero of the story, Septim, which was the Emperor, has you go find his son. Yeah, and he's the last one in the line. He's really the hero of the story. Yeah, he's really the hero of the story, and you know, you get him to...
Remind me after this podcast to show you a fucking funny clip from Oblivion. I was dying for like an hour after watching it.
But yeah, that has a lot of funny moments. The conversations between the NPCs, if you're just sneaking around, is hilarious.
Yeah.
They're like, good day. How are you?
The clip I'm referring to is you steal this guy's stuff and he just freaks out for like an hour.
Yeah. Thief!
Yeah.
Thief!
I gotta show you that.
Call the gods!
So
and then you talk to him. Good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to my... Hey!
It's hilarious. And it's such... And the thing that's actually very innovative of the thing is, even though it's goofy, the NPCs are so innovative because if you follow them around, they have jobs.
Right.
They go to inns, they go to work, and then they go back to their home and sleep. Like, that's something unheard of in even a lot of open world games.
Right.
So it was very impressive for the time, 2006.
Yeah.
So to me, that's when the story was great. The game looks decent. It's a very fun game to play, and the mods make the game even better with Elder Scrolls. And the reason I just put it over Skyrim is really it goes down to that story. The story of Oblivion, I think, is way better than Skyrim.
Yeah.
Replaying the game so many times, because Skyrim, it's just it feels empty.
Right.
There's a lot of empty storylines in Skyrim, where I'm more fulfilled with Oblivion.
It's interesting also with that take as well, because you hear a lot of people talk so highly about Skyrim versus the other Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, I just think Oblivion, they really had their A game. And the DLC and characters in DLC, Sheogorath, he has the half suit, half and half suit.
Yeah.
People say he looks like Jordan Peterson, but that's such a fun guideline. And another thing with the series is what I really like is like, I guess it's kind of like the religion, but there's like all these gods and stuff you do quest for, and all the gods have really cool voice actors and kind of like their own things where, you know, they take gods from Nordic mythology or Hinduism and stuff like that and mix it together. I always thought that was really cool. And again, another thing with the lore is that it leaves so many questions unanswered, and that's what makes games great.
Yeah.
It's just it leaves questions unanswered and it makes you wondering and wanting more from the series. And hopefully Elder Scrolls 6, whenever that comes out, maybe we'll be dead, is hopefully that at least lives up to the expectations. Even if Elder Scrolls 6 is like a Skyrim, to me, that's still good.
We're gonna get a GTA 6 before an Elder Scrolls 6.
Probably.
Which is crazy because GTA 5 came out more recently than Skyrim.
It's so stupid. But I'm okay with them taking their time as long as they make a good game.
Good game, yeah. That'd be the worst, right? If it comes out as a turd after all this time.
After all this time, well, yeah. Cross our fingers. But next, we'll go into a classic, Deus Ex, OG Deus Ex. Again, I love this series with all the lore it has around it, and a lot of realism. But I love if you love, like, I guess, secret societies and, you know, utopian, not dystopian, not really a utopia, dystopian futures. This game, you know, is really for you. You know, it's kind of like, it takes all this pop culture, especially coming out of, I believe it came out in the late 90s, so right after The Matrix, when that was really popular. You know, everyone was like, the government's out to get me, everyone's a robot. Kind of like that hysteria, it turned into a game. It's just super fun play. That the music's great in this game. I love those Blade Runner-esque type looking, you know, cities and atmospheres, and that's what this game has. And the characters, J.C. Denton is a very fun character to play as, and there's a lot of options in these stories. There's like a bunch of different endings for each level, and that's what's really cool. Like, you can sneak, or you could just go guns blazing, or you can not kill anyone. Like, that's what makes this game really special, and the characters are so memorable. It's a really fun game, and a classic that I recommend to anyone that loves dystopian futures and the freedom of what they want to do and leveling. And have you heard much of this?
Yeah, I've heard of the series. I've not heard of the original one as much as you've been talking about, like the during the video we did.
Yeah.
And then obviously now. Like, this is the most time I've spent with this series.
Yeah, the series is a very interesting series down the line because a lot of the OGs left that worked on Deus Ex when the second one came out, and the second one wasn't very good at all. And the second one had an approach where you can be a female or a male character.
It's like Pokemon.
Yeah.
The second Pokemon did that.
Yeah, just it's not as good, and the story just kind of doesn't make sense. It's really convoluted, and it's far in the future from Deus Ex, and you kind of spoilers here. I won't completely spoil it, but they really screw over the character you play in Deus Ex, the original, and it just doesn't. I don't really like it as much. And it ruins it kind of because the original Deus Ex has multiple endings. So, you know, it leaves it up for interpretation.
Right, yeah.
And I don't really like when video games franchises, like, do that and then make a sequel after where it's like, oh, well, this happened no matter what.
Like an absolute
yeah.
thing. It kind of defeats the purpose of the previous one.
Yeah, and the issue with Deus Ex 2 is they try to have all of it. Like they tried to be like, well, every ending happened, but it doesn't work.
Because you went down this storyline already.
Yeah, so it's dumb. And then the third one,
The one I heard of was Deus Ex Machina. Machina.
Machina. Oh, the movie.
That's all I've heard of for the series.
Yeah, the movie. I don't think the movie has anything to do with the actual
Yeah, I know.
series. I think that's from like a book.
Oh, okay.
I can't really remember, but
that's the only time I've heard of it.
But yeah, the Deus Ex is down the line. Like oh, I'm blanking on the Deus. Hold on here. Oh, here we go. I got it up. But yeah, Invisible War was the second one, and that
Okay.
blow. Yeah, Mankind Divided was when they went more like years later, a little more mainstream, different developers, new people working on it, and that's when it really revived the series. And the most interesting thing about that is it takes place way before the original Deus Ex, way before, which is cool. And and the huge thing about the games you should know is augmentations. So there's people that have like limbs, like fake limbs, robotic limbs, and robotic parts.
Yeah.
And the issue in the game is a lot of humans and stuff are starting to take issue with that because they're participating in sports. They're way better in sports because they run faster and stuff, and people don't like them. And then there's a terrorist organization that has augmentations, and they kill a bunch of people. So now the humans are pissed, and they start killing innocent people that have augmentations and stuff. And now you're the character in the original, or in these Deus Ex Mankind, you have to go and like solve the issue. And I really like what they did with that. They went fresh start, back to beginning, really awesome main character, great voice actors, great music, and it's really fun to play. And hopefully, I've heard through the grapevine, they're making a new open world Deus Ex soon. Or at least it's in development.
Source Marvin Gaye.
So yeah, Marvin Gaye told me that. So yeah. Anyways, the Deus Ex franchise is great. And again, if you were gonna start, I would say Mankind Divided. Play the newer ones first because it takes place earlier in the story, and then go back to the best one, the original.
Gotcha.
But next, we're going with Final Fantasy VI.
Yes.
And
so,
6.
The first 5 Final Fantasies were good. I think the first one's okay, but then it goes on and on and on, and then it gets to 6, and 6 is when they finally found their footing, and they finally had a good story. They had a lot of characters. They had good stories for each character. They had like 20 main characters.
Yeah.
And previous Final Fantasies had multiple characters, but 6 finally like fleshed all of them out. And if you didn't know, for those who don't know the Final Fantasy series, each game has different characters. So you don't have like a continuation, like, for example, Sephiroth and Cloud are in 7. Sephiroth and Cloud aren't in any other game. They're just in 7.
Makes it confusing.
It does kind of, yeah. But I kind of like it, though. It kind of has each game. It makes it unique in that kind of way.
Yeah.
6 in particular, the main antagonist is Kefka, and Kefka is basically like the Joker of the Final Fantasy series, and that's why everyone likes him as a villain. Obviously, you're familiar with the Joker, pretty popular villain.
Yeah.
So that's how...
That makes... Yeah.
And then Terra... who's kind of alluding to Shantae a little bit. I don't know why I'm comparing Terra to Shantae, but Shantae's half genie, half human, and Terra's half Esper, half human. So that's kind of connecting those two franchises a little bit, or not franchises, but characters.
Yeah.
And Terra has a really interesting story because I guess I'm not going to spoil it too much if you haven't played it. I recommend it, but she's brainwashed initially, like starting off the game she's brainwashed, and then she like remembers everything from her past, and then ends up like, because the government, I forget what it's called, it's like she ends up working for the government and is like a powerhouse for the government and like ruining everybody. I forget what the government is called in that universe, but yeah, they're basically evil, and Kefka's like the main guy. one of the main guys. The Emperor's the main guy, but Kefka's like the general, I guess. It's just a lot to get into. That's why I mentioned in the top 10 that it would be a good TV show, because there's a lot of going on in that game in particular. And if it was made into like a TV show, I think it would be easier to understand instead of playing through it. But I do recommend playing through it though if you haven't. If you're into RPGs, it's a really good one.
Yeah, I think I've only played. I've played some of the older ones. I'm familiar with Cloud. I've played 7.
Yeah, 7. Also, another thing, 6 is the last kind of 8-bit, I guess. 8-bit Final Fantasy. It's in that style, because then you get to Final Fantasy 7 and they're 3D models. So that's the first one with 3D models.
I played 15.
15?
Yeah, I liked 15 a little bit, but yeah.
Final Fantasy 6 was originally for, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong, in the comments, NES. I think it was for the NES. It might be SNES. I think it's SNES actually. Because
Pretty sure by then SNES.
94, so probably SNES.
SNES, definitely,
okay. Because in North America, Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 were released as Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3.
I remember.
So if you got Final Fantasy 3 in North America, you got Final Fantasy 6.
I suppose it doesn't really matter in the storyline.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's the same game.
Yeah.
But I first played Final Fantasy 6 on the GBA, and that's how I got into it. So
interesting.
And I like it a lot in the Game Boy. It's funny because they like changed the dialogue a lot from the Game Boy from the SNES. Not a lot, but just to make it more like, because the Japanese dialogue's obviously different from the English dialogue. So I think they like combined it into the GBA version.
Huh.
So, just some interesting stuff. Also, Kefka has a funny laugh. So
Kefka, but yeah, interesting.
But we can move on to the next one if you want.
The next one, right on topic since the remake just came out recently.
So you're playing it?
Yeah, Silent Hill 2, and I love the remake. The remake, before I go on the original here, the remake is insanely good. It to me, it might be like a Resident Evil 4 remake, OG Resident Evil 4 type scenario, where they're both so good, you can play both. They're really true to the story. The voice acting's better this time than the first one. The first one's not awful, but it's definitely aged. And the music is great. They got the original composer back for the remake, and I'm having a blast playing it so far. It's a fun game playing when you're a little more sick too, just because it's a game dealing with a lot of psychological depression and stuff.
I also I don't know about you, but I also play games better when sick. I'm usually better at. I don't know how. I think it might be a psychological thing, but I perform better when sick than I do.
Interesting. I play better at horror movies when I'm sicker because I'm more on like an edge. So I'm trying to get through things. Silent Hill's perfect for that. And OG Silent Hill 2. Why it's my favorite in the series. Again, it's kind of interesting, but it's because it's more of like a standalone game versus the other ones in the series. Silent Hill 2 he deals with James Sunderland. He has iconic green jacket, and he's finding his wife who has been dead for years, who has sent him a letter to find her at their special place.
Interesting.
And he's like, my wife's dead, but he went there anyways, and now he's in Silent Hill. He runs into a bunch of people that are trying to find their relatives that are dead, that said they told him to go to Silent Hill, and there's like, with James specifically versus the other Silent Hill main characters, is James isn't really a good dude. Some of the other Silent Hill games explore on this a little bit, but James isn't a good dude. I mean, spoilers here. It's not really a spoiler because it comes prevalent, but it's still a spoiler. Is James actually killed his wife?
Oh.
And
that's what I was thinking. Like when you were saying he wasn't a good dude, I was like, did he kill his wife?
Yeah, he actually was the one to kill his wife. And he sees all these bad things. And the big thing of the Silent Hill franchise is there's something called like the Other World, where it's just this nightmarish world we have to get through. You're fighting all these monsters. That's where the iconic, you probably know, Pyramid Head is from. And again, Pyramid Head is from Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
It's James's each monster in each Silent Hill games is supposed to be this way. Later on, they screwed this up in other games, but it's supposed to be like your own monster. So you ever have nightmares where it's just like it's a monster that no one else could have imagined? It's kind of like that. Nope. I don't really get nightmares either, but it's something like that where it's like each monster.
Sleep paralysis demon.
Yeah, and those monsters resemble his like sins.
Oh,
and there's so many endings. There's more endings to the remake. That'll be interesting to see. And again, I love Silent Hill 2. There are goofy endings. There's a dog ending where it's just a dog. The ending shows a dog. It's funny. There's a goofy ending where you're goofing around with the monsters, and then there's a UFO ending when James gets taken up by a UFO. And very unique gameplay systems where if you do certain things, you get a certain ending. So if you don't heal all game, that could lock you into a different ending, a bad ending. And if you inspect certain items, that locks you into a different ending, which is very interesting. And so it's not really like a choice ending because it's its own stories, but it's what you do. Like if you don't heal up, and if you do go and get different puzzles, you unlock different endings, which is very interesting when they do that in games. And with the series of the Silent Hill franchise, I really like it. Silent Hill 2 again is my favorite because it's standalone, but it doesn't mean the other ones aren't great. Like Silent Hill is great. That's kind of the classic Silent Hill. When you go into Silent Hill and the fog's everywhere, and what that game deals with, same with Silent Hill 3, because it's connected. You play as the daughter from the main protagonist from Silent Hill. Is it deals with like more cults. Like there's a cult of Silent Hill, and they're killing people and stuff like that. And that's how shit goes down. And that's kind of like how 1 and 3 is. Where 2, again, is its own thing, which I really like. And 4 is crazy. A really good game I wish would get a remake later. Is 4 is you're in an apartment for a lot of the game. And the apartment gets like more and more degraded. But you go through this hole. And there's like subway systems and stuff. And you're with other people that are convinced that they're dreaming. But it's not a dream. Right. And they get themselves killed and stuff. And you're realizing that this dude whose mom was killed. He's a kid in the other world, but he's actually an adult now, and he's killing. I think it's like 13 victims to unlock. I forget what it's saying. To bring pretty much hell on Earth, and you have to like stop him. It's a very interesting game, and it was interesting for the time when it came out. And again, there are some Silent Hills after that are how
many did they put out?
I don't even know, like 8.
Jeez.
But it's not Silent Hill 1 through 8. The last mainline one, I guess, was 4.
Loud Valley.
Yeah, Loud Valley. And then they just kind of made spin-offs. There was one on the Origins, I believe, was on the PSP, and it's called The Most Boring Game. Homecoming, which it's a very strange story. It's not a bad Silent Hill. I just don't really like it. Downpour, which is an underrated Silent Hill, the last mainline one technically, it's fun. But again, they ruined some of the story. But I do still like the story and the care they put in that game. But sadly, that's one of the most hated in the franchise because it's the last that came out, and everyone blamed it for the death kind of the franchise. But really, Konami's more to blame. Shattered Memories, which was a Wii exclusive. What was very unique about that game, it's a retelling of the first Silent Hill. But it's different. It's completely different, which I just think is very unique. And also, one of the coolest mechanics is you sit down with a therapist throughout that game, and he asks you questions, and it's on that classic Wii, where if you answer the questions differently, you get a different ending and different reactions. Wow. It's really interesting. But yeah, again, get the remake. The remake is great. And Silent Hill 2, again, you could just play Silent Hill 2 and have that be your introduction to the series. I would recommend it, actually, over than any other Silent Hill game if you want to get into the series, just because, again, it's standalone. You get immersed in the series, and then play Silent Hill 1 after Silent Hill 2. But hopefully they make more of these games. It's my favorite horror games. Probably out there. It's just super fun, and again, puzzles. A lot of puzzles in it, and that's why I really enjoy the game. And next, Let's go to kind of a similar, but you get to deal more damage. Is Resident Evil 4 with Leon Kennedy. Again, I'm split on either the remaster or the original. They could both go here, but they were again just such fun games. Is how I was introduced to the Resident Evil franchise on the GameCube, and you're probably more familiar with Resident Evil. It's classic.
Bit, yeah.
It's classic like Silent Hill. Honestly, it's around the same time when they came out.
Yeah, Ray's played a lot of Resident Evil randomizers.
Yeah.
In the last few years.
It's I watched him play. It's just super fun. The story's great. Especially in 4. 4's when the gameplay and the story really come together. It keeps those horror elements, but it has a lot of that action elements. But the action is just so fun, and the characters are so fun and hilarious. Here comes the big cheese. But Leon Kennedy is one of my favorite characters in games. And RE4, the story, it has every like section too. You're in castles. You're in this old town. It's a very fun game. And I think out of all the games in this list, the mechanics, especially in the remaster that came out, is just super fun. And yeah, I guess besides that in the series, you're probably aware of 7 and 8 that came out. Yeah. That went a different direction, more of the horror direction.
Right.
8 is way different though. 8 went right back to action. So I'm definitely excited to see what they do with Resident Evil 9. I think Leon is in it, given how 8 ending. I don't think we'll play as him. He's way older by the time now 9 would come out, but still, I'm interested to see what happens with the franchise. And the next remaster we should get is the remaster of Resident Evil 5, maybe. Or remaster of Resident Evil 0. Again, one of the few video game franchises that had a 0 come out.
Yakuza as well.
Yeah, but it's really fun. I guess 0 technically takes place while 1 is happening, but like a little right before. But I really hope they keep up with the remakes. Code Veronica would be great. Because they're doing a great job so far, and it's super fun. And again, if you somehow haven't at least played 4, play it.
All right.
But let's move on to Mario Galaxy.
All right, Mario Galaxy. Yeah, the third 3D Mario game to come out. The first 2, Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. Holden said he liked Mario Sunshine.
Yep.
Galaxy was for the Wii, and great 2-player mode, so I can play it as a lot. Not really.
Yeah,
just fucking collect stars.
Yeah.
But no, Mario Galaxy is very. I'm a huge fan of space. It's one of my favorite subject matters to discuss. And Mario Galaxy, if you didn't know, is in space. So yeah.
Oh.
Rosalina is introduced in this game as well. It would be my favorite Mario game of all time if Mario 3 didn't exist, but we'll get there later. Mario Galaxy, very atmospherical. I was blown away as a kid playing it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say really. It's pretty fun.
It's a fun game. It's better than Paper Mario.
That's the thing though. I think a lot of people already know what Mario Galaxy is, so I don't know if I need to say much more about it. Let me think of what else to add. Odyssey came out later. Odyssey was highly rated as well. I haven't played that yet actually. I should probably play that sometime. But yeah, I really love Galaxy. Basically, is what it boils down to. I'm a man of a lot of words.
Yeah, it is really fun, and yeah, you're right. It's Mario, but Galaxy does do things differently enough. Yeah. That makes it really fun.
You get to save Luigi, and then you get to play as him later.
Yeah, it's cool. And next let's go with Emerald, the greatest Pokemon ever.
I could talk about this a little bit more, probably, hopefully. So Pokemon Gen 3 in general is easier for me to play than Gen 4 or Gen 5 or Gen 6 or Gen 1 or 2. So Gen 3, I think it's paced a lot better than 4. 4 is very slow, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't really like it.
Really?
4 is okay. It's just very slow. But Gen 3, I think, does it perfectly. I think it's the perfect balance of...
It's at its best.
It's the art style, too. It's going back to Final Fantasy VI. That type of art style I like. It's a very big generation. It's the biggest generation up until Hoenn. So
Yeah.
it's bigger than Kanto and Johto. I think Sinnoh is bigger than it, but it was the biggest at its time.
Yeah.
The Pokemon are really cool. I think it's my favorite generation of Pokemon in any generation. Let me think. My favorite legendary, Rayquaza, is obviously the title character.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I remember being not blown away. I was kind of intrigued that Wallace was the champion. Spoilers, because he was a lot easier than Steven. I was like, what the heck? This is such a downgrade. But, that's probably the only flaw with it is the champion.
Yeah. And what's your starter?
The starter, that's the thing about this game as well, is that all 3 starters are really good.
Great, yeah.
I love them all. If I had to pick, though, it would probably be the first generation I would choose for a grass type. I have to go with Trico.
Trico.
Yeah, love Trico.
No Mudkip.
But I could see how you love Mudkip or Torchic. They're both great as well.
Yeah, I always went with Mudkip.
Yeah,
or Trico, to be honest.
Yeah.
Torchic always got the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
but
Blaziken's pretty cool though.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think any good Pokemon game is characterized by its starter options, and that's why I like Gen 1 as well, because Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Charmander, they're great. That's why Gen 4 is okay, because I think they're all okay. Gen 5 is a great game, and Grayson always talks highly about Unova.
Yeah.
But the thing that holds back Gen 5, in my opinion, is their starter Pokemon. Like, they're okay. Oshawott and Tepig are alright. I really hate Snivy. Sorry, Grant. It's his favorite. But yeah, Gen 3 I love a lot. And I love the music as well. It's like a trumpet more, like, as its main instrument.
Mm-hmm.
I think each generation does a different thing. Very into trumpets is Gen 3. Emerald in particular. And I love the dive theme. If you haven't heard the dive theme, give it a listen. It's very good. First Pokemon game you can actually dive into the water, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they won't even let you in the water in the other one.
But if you're IGN, you're going to rate it a 7 out of 10 because it has too much water. That's where the meme came from.
Too much water. Yeah, very trustworthy, IGN.
Yeah. We can move on if you want. Emerald's really fun.
The next one doesn't really need much words for it, because, I mean, come on, it's Half-Life 2.
Okay, yep.
There you go. If you haven't played Half-Life 2, what are you doing? If you haven't
Start listening to what we're doing.
Yeah, and play it. I mean, it's Half-Life 2. It's
better than Half-Life 1.
Half-Life 2 will always be regarded in of the best games of all time. It's just what it is.
Go to game.
We could talk about all day how it's still, even to this day, its mechanics and everything is super unique, and still even holds up today. Nobody can even make it anything as good as what Valve somehow did. Yeah. It's just, it's Half-Life 2. If you haven't played it, play it. It's just the way it is, pal.
Very great game.
Very great game. Let's go to Crash 3.
Crash 3 Warped! So Crash 3 Warped is very fun.
Really?
No. I lied. I hate it. No, but Crash 1, Crash 2, Crash 3, that original trilogy of Crash games are basically the foundation of Sony as a whole. You can argue Spyro, but go fuck yourself.
Ratchet and Clank.
All right, now we're not talking. So, as Garrett Green completes a pass. So, Crash 1, very difficult game. There's no upgrades that Crash has at all. It's just run, jump, spin.
They couldn't even beat it.
Nathan Drake couldn't beat it in Uncharted 4. What is he thinking? Elena is a cheater. But that's Crash 1. Crash 2 added a lot to Crash 1, and I'll give Crash 2 a lot of credit. Cortex Strikes Back is the title of that one. It's very interesting, too, because Cortex makes it seem like he's trying to help you, but in reality, he's being the villain because he's the villain. So he kind of manipulates Crash in that kind of way. But you unlock a lot of abilities in Crash 2 that you get to see in 3, and 3 even adds more than there were in 2. The thing about 2 that I don't like is versus 3 is the stupid polar bear rides, man.
Yeah.
They always trip me up. I have a little bit of recency bias because I perfected the trilogy, and I spent like 3 hours on those stupid polar bears.
So it changes your opinion.
Yeah, it changed my opinion a little bit. But
Yeah.
Crash 3, yeah, obviously the easiest one. I spent the least amount of time on getting all the achievements in that one versus 2 and 1. And I had a lot of fun with it too, which was a very good thing. I was not having fun with 1. 2 I had a little bit more fun with, but 3 I had the most fun with by far. The vehicle levels can be annoying, but they're pretty fun as well. They're very creative. Crash gets to ride on a motorcycle. Coco gets to ride on a jet ski. A lot of people hate the jet ski, but I like the jet ski. And then Crash and Coco fly on a plane, which is cool.
Coco for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, Coco is Crash's sister.
Right.
Coco
Yeah.
Bandicoot.
Also, she's Coco for Cocoa Puffs.
Whatever, dude. I also believe Nolan North voices Engine in the Crash games, which is the second to last boss before Neo Cortex.
Interesting. A younger Nolan North.
Yeah. So Engine is I'm trying to think. He's only in 2 and 3. He's not in 1. Nitrous Brio's in 1. So yeah, 1's a very weird one because you have a guy with a Tommy gun who's shooting you.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Very old time game.
But that's it for Crash 3. Touchdown Mountaineers.
But
we're watching the West Virginia Iowa State game. If you didn't know.
Yeah, Jahemian White. But Mario 3.
Oh, so we're sticking with me again. So interesting thing here. Mario 3 is technically Mario 4 in Japan.
Oh.
Because Mario 1 obviously is the original Super Mario Bros. Mario 2 wasn't Mario 2. Mario 2 was Lost Levels, which is a basically more hard version of Mario 1. And then Mario 2 was Mario 3, which I didn't like Mario 2, the United States Mario 2, because, it's just weird.
You liked more of the Moroccan Mario 2?
Yeah, I like the Moroccan Mario 2. That's what I Morocco with, I guess. Sorry.
Jeb Bush? But,
Jeb Bush is coaching Iowa State.
But
yeah, Mario 3, great game. So what it added to Mario 1 and Mario 2 was more levels per world. There was so many different levels, different power-ups, a lot more like diverse power-ups. You have the leaf as well, where you get the little tail and the ears. And then you also have the frog suit. You have all these different cool power-ups that they added into the game. And then there's 8 worlds, just like the first Mario game. But the thing is with the first Mario game is it's 4 levels per world, so you only get like 32 levels in the game.
Yeah.
So in the entire game. But yeah,
There's
Mario,
a lot more in this.
a lot more in Mario 3. And Mario World is also a very good game that I would like to give a shout out to. Mario World introduction to Yoshi, I think. I think that's the introduction to Yoshi.
I thought Baby Mario.
Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island was.
Maybe you're right. And first Mario game.
Okay, fine. But Mario's in Yoshi's Island, so it's a
Mario.
It's a baby.
But yeah, Mario World's very good. Mario World's art style is pretty cute as well. I like it a lot. Mario 3, great game though. It's basically on every Nintendo console now, so if you want to play it, it's not hard to play. It's on the Switch, it's on the Wii U, it's on the Wii, it's on I don't know if it was actually on GameCube.
I'm not sure. And there's vicarious ways you can get it too.
Yeah.
But
Through
don't worry about it. But
we can move on from Mario 3. Mario 3 is a great game.
Starts great, ends great.
Starts great, it ends great. Yeah. Favorite franchise of all time.
Oh. All right. But next
Moving on to Holden's favorite game of all time.
Yes, Dead Space 2.
That's a dose for you Spanish speakers.
Dead Space 2, a great franchise. Again, back if you see the pattern of 2s here and a lot of horror, I guess, horror-esque first-person or horror-esque third-person shooters.
My pattern is 3. Look at that.
Yeah.
And then Shantae, that was the 3rd game in the series.
Exactly. So yeah, but Yeah, again, another horror third-person shooter. To me, Dead Space 2 capitalized and does everything great that
That
the
Dead Space
original,
one, yeah.
yeah, original Dead Space did. I know some people don't like that Isaac had like started talking, but I like that more for the story's sake.
Was that Grant that said that? Or
I think so. Yeah, at first he may have changed his opinion.
he probably did. Yeah.
But yeah, to me, like Isaac speaking, and it's again a very interesting kind of character because I wouldn't call Isaac a hero per se. He's kind of just trying to survive, and
Yeah.
he's dealing with his own insanity.
Well, I would be insane too if I was put in that position.
Yeah, and that's what I really like. In the start of the game, I love because you start in a straitjacket and someone saves you, and the guy that saves you gets killed, and the person on the lower radio goes, "Run!" And you're running. You just have a lot of adrenaline filled because you're running in this like futuristic hospital on a space installation on a moon of Saturn. And you're running, you're just running, and all these necromorphs are trying to kill you, and it's such a fun thing. And then you get caught in the door, and you have a quick time where you have to spam A as fast as you can so you don't get killed. And I really like that. And you're like left in the first few minutes of the game where you don't have a suit, and your rig is red, and you can't even fight anyone because you're strapped. And then you go meet a guy, and he unstraps you, and you only have a flashlight. Like that's a really fun part of the game. And the bosses in the game expands on the lore with the church. I call it the Church of Scientology, but Unitology is what it's called. But it reminds me of Scientology.
That's what I liked about 2 as well. Is I played 1 with you guys, and I hated that about 1 is how I didn't know anything about everything. I was like, what is going on? So that's what I like about 2 is that it explains a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. 2 might be better for new players because it explains everything. You get more. Because 1, even though 1 was the first one to come out, it does it on purpose, kind of as a narrative thing. Yeah, but there's a lot of books and stuff that came out. And also a Extraction that came out on the Wii, which is a very fun game. It's like a shoot 'em up rail shooter, which is fun. It takes place during the events before Dead Space on that ship, the Ishimura. Dead Space 2. I really like Isaac in this, and it's just interesting because Isaac isn't really. Again, you're playing as a character that isn't necessarily just this like Superman hero who's saving the day. Like everyone around him gets killed. Like,
if you want to play Superman, you can play Superman 64.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can hate your life.
Like Isaac, it's more realistic kind of in that sense. Isaac isn't unable to save everyone. He's barely able to save himself. You have the flashes of your dead girlfriend. He's going insane.
Yeah.
And it has one of the most disturbing things in gaming history is the eye level. Maybe you've heard it that back in old YouTube days, everyone was the thumbnails with Isaac with the laser in his eye, where you have this needle in your eye and you have to get it closer and closer to inject it in your eye, and he's flinching, and you have to like tap A, and it's a very disturbing. Yeah, disturbing scene.
Got it. The rated M. Right?
Yeah, the rated M ending. But yeah, great. And again, another kind of you're not really playing, but kind of an ending after the credits. I really like, and really heartwarming ending. And I kind of wish they ended the series there because what they did after was terrible. Dead Space 3 is pretty bad. Dead Space 3 is Banjo and Kazooie nuts and bolts. What it is to JonTron, that's what it is to me.
Oh.
It's pretty damn bad, and it's so disappointing when I go back and play it, because it's just like, damn, this series was great. But A Light in the Dark is the remake that came out recently of the original. Isaac is the voice actor's back. Sure, he looks different, but they just did mocap of how the voice actor looks. He talks in it, and there's a little more narrative. And
would you want there to be a movie adaptation of Dead Space 2?
I don't really trust video game adaptations in the movies. Yeah. It's never really been done great, so
you can get Ridley Scott on it.
Yeah, Ridley Scott. I'll get him. Great guy, Napoleon. Great job. But anyways, Dead Space 2. It's great game. I highly recommend it. It's cheap on Steam.
Nice.
It's just fun to play, and again, play the Dead Space remake that came out recently. It's very fun, and I'm hoping because it sold well and did well that they make a Dead Space 2 remake, which would be very
That'd be
fun to
fun.
see.
Yeah.
And another thing I do want to add, Dead Space 2, what makes it so great is there's so many different settings in the game. You're in like a weird space, futuristic space subway. You're in space. You're in the church. You're on a railway.
I
You're
remember
like
the subway, yeah.
yeah, you're in all these different kind of environments. One of my favorite levels is an ice environment where there are necromorphs because there are bodies. It's like a morgue. We're trapped in the ice in the church, and they turn to necromorphs, and they break out, and you're fighting and getting jump scared, and you're trying to run out of the freezer. So that's just very fun in the game. And again, I want to add one of the more disturbing levels is you literally kill babies in necromorph kids and necromorph babies that blow up.
They didn't even get to go to college.
Because you go to like a futuristic school and that's where you fight babies, you fight in the gym and stuff. Very interesting that they kind of got away with that.
No, they didn't.
I'm surprised they did. Nope, they went to jail.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
just
put them there.
great game that has that elements of horror and great storytelling. And let's go to another great franchise.
This will be the final thing we talk about for this podcast.
Yes, my favorite franchise ever. And my second favorite game ever, Uncharted 2.
Yeah. It's my favorite game
Your
ever.
favorite game ever, yeah.
So, Uncharted 2 really changed what gaming was all about.
Exactly.
So, the first Uncharted was pretty good, just a bare bones adventure style game.
Yeah.
And then 2 added so much to it.
It was like minor leagues, major leagues right after. Like
Yeah, the Dayton Dragons. That's how you're in.
Exactly. 2 did everything better, and the story reminded me kind of just like an adventure movie.
Yeah.
It was super fun, and the gameplay was super fun and not as annoying as 1, to where it's just and in the story you care so much about these characters and you see them develop, and I liked the villains.
Very intimidating antagonists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the villains and the side characters are even better, I think, in this game than any other game in the series.
Potentially.
But it's weird to me because it's again we talked to I think even in the 10-minute like the comparison to 3, but it's just somehow it's so strange to me. It just does everything so good that. Like when they came out with 3 just feels rushed.
Yeah.
Like it's the gunplay is not as good.
3 still won Game of the Year, I think. Right?
Yeah, I think it did. And 3, as much as I love 3, which I really do, it's just the correlations of 3 to Indiana Jones is uncanny.
Yeah.
It's literally the same story. Quite literally the same story. Just, Pillars of Iram this time.
Yeah.
But 2... Obviously, Uncharted.
I never looked at it that way.
Yeah, Uncharted isn't like it's not 100% original. They make it prevalent that they're obviously inspired by other stories, but 2 kind of keeps it in that originality to me.
Yeah, especially with the settings of different things. Like you never see people talk about Shambhala or anything.
Yeah, Shambhala. Yeah. And all that, and it was very just interesting characters, and I kind of like the Nate. How Nate is in this, and one of my favorite levels, maybe favorite level in video game history is that train level.
Yeah.
It's just such a fun level, and such a fun introduction to a series.
Great introduction. Delving more into Nate a little bit, I think Nate in this phase, maybe you can argue in 3 as well, but 2 and 3 is his most, like, developmental phase in his life, if you look at it. Like, he's still trying to find himself, he's doing all this different stuff. But yeah, Nate definitely is like trying to flesh himself out more in this game, as opposed to 1 where he's kind of like being silly.
Yeah, exactly, which I really like. And yeah, 2 is it's just the story. Yeah, the story is some of the best. The boss fight's actually really fun.
Yeah.
And
it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, the game. I think what 2 does maybe better than the others. It's not frustratingly like that it doesn't have those like awful frustrating sections.
Yeah.
It just has those hard sections that if you're good, you'll get through it.
Like 1, for example, is the zombies that come to the island. I guess they're technically the natives, but that was kind of frustrating.
Exactly.
And then 3 was like the
I'd say in that end
The
section.
dream people.
Oh, the dream people too, but that end section when they keep coming
Yeah.
and you have to you're fighting them is a little annoying.
And then 4, I don't even know.
Four might have been fine. Honestly, the only annoying thing maybe on 4 was kind of the lack of stuff. 4 honestly was more like a movie you didn't play,
Right.
where 2 was like a movie you were able to play.
Yeah.
4, as much as I love 4, the reason it's not as good as 2 is the gunplay is the best, and it looks the best, but it's just the story isn't the best, and there's a lot of things that you could tell they just wanted to make a 4th game, and they just were just like, well, let's just add this because I mean Sam is just a write-in.
Yeah.
He was never mentioned before.
Troy Baker went to Naughty Dog. Was like, let me in this game.
Yeah, I will say there are my least favorite mission in the whole series is in 4 with the mission when you go to that mansion, the house, or whatever you.
Oh, you don't like that?
No, it's so dumb. To me, it's such a filler thing that
The auction.
they just try to use it to explain how Sam and how this all connects back to Nate. But to me, I just didn't really like it.
You're talking about the orphanage?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about the auction with the when they're trying to get the thing.
Oh no, I like that
love
mission.
that
That
one.
mission's awesome.
That's what I thought
no,
you were
and the
talking about.
house.
Okay.
Yeah, the house or whatever. When the cops and
Yeah,
the old
yeah,
ladi's there, she's like, "Your mother
And
was."
she
I was like,
dies.
"Yeah." I was like, "This is so stupid."
Like
Like,
they made the last name Morgan or whatever.
yeah, and I honestly didn't like that. I would have liked it if that was left more up as a mystery, and we didn't even know about Nate's parents. I actually really didn't like that.
Yeah.
And when I replayed it, I liked it less. I was like, this is so dumb. But besides that, it's still a great series. I hope they don't touch it. Just
10-foot pole. Well, Naughty Dog said they're not doing it anymore.
that's good.
So
Yeah,
I think that's what they said.
just leave it alone, and if you do anything with it, just remaster it.
Yeah.
That's just all
Well,
I
they
want.
already did for the first 3 games.
Yeah, well, they're making like a 4K remaster of the
Oh,
new games
that'd
because
be
they didn't
good.
really remaster new games; they just ported it
They
over.
ported over to PS4.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
which
but
I hope for.
With 2, it also makes you. It's kind of a misdirection as well with the beginning, because it makes you believe that Chloe and Harry are the new Sully and Elena. You're like, oh, so I guess you don't see Sully and Elena.
Yeah.
But then it makes it so Harry like betrays you, and you're like, whoa. What the-"
Yeah.
It's like an Indiana Jones type thing.
Exactly, yeah. And to me, of the two, I probably like Nate more than Indy.
I probably disagree with that, but
To me, Nate's more
Nate is
kind of
funny.
likable than Indy.
Indy's a great guy.
Oh yeah, great guy, leaving everyone. but,
Yeah.
but I would say Indy did at least save a kid. Well, Nate couldn't do that.
That's true. He saved his father. Nate didn't
Yeah.
even know his father.
Well, Nate saved his daddy, not his father.
Sully.
Yeah. Which is exactly what 3 is, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah.
They think he
Yeah,
died, just
yeah.
like he thought his father died.
Right.
Then there's a tank battle scene. yeah, it's just, and you both meet at these pillars in the desert.
And both villains die in such weird ways.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, guys. I did like 3 though. Actually, they do this better than I think Indiana Jones did this. Well, they had a retrospect, didn't they? Is the secret society thing? I really
Yeah,
like that,
that was
and
good.
how it connects to Sir Francis Drake. I
Yeah.
actually really like that. And
don't-
Cutter.
You don't like the Nazis being the bad guys every movie?
Yeah, thanks Spielberg. But
No, but did you see that there's a Indiana Jones game coming out? That
Yeah,
actually
I
looks
saw that.
interesting.
Yeah, the
Like,
first person
the Great Circle or whatever.
story.
The Lost Circle or whatever.
I'm wary on it. Just the mechanics seem very interesting, but
The voice actor I thought sounded just like Harrison Ford.
yeah.
So that was good.
I think it could be good. We'll have to see. I just don't really like the
If it's like an
Um,
Uncharted type of Indiana Jones game, then it's worth getting. But-
exactly, but it's in first person, and it's very stiff first person when you watch it. So I don't know how they're gonna do it with like scenarios where you're jumping around and whipping.
Apparently, I think it takes place in between Lost Ark and Last Crusade, like that year in between.
Which could be risky too, because they
Yeah.
could just screw a bunch of crap up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When they do things like that, it's to me, it would be best. Like I love this adventure type thing, the best thing to do would just be to make a new story. Have a
Yeah.
new character.
Originality.
Make a new guy, and he's trying to find, I don't know, Lenin's lost left ball sack in the USSR. I don't know.
Stalin has it hidden.
Yeah, Stalin has it hidden. He was alive all along. That would be a cool game. I'd play that.
That'd be weird.
On the DSXL, it would be fun.
The DSXL comes back for a previous handheld.
Yeah, it's like, alright. But, yeah, originality is what...
Uncharted 2 did.
What Uncharted 2 did. And it is harder for games because with these games are always replayable.
Yeah.
And I will probably always replay most of these games and always go back to them. It's just what makes games great. They're different than... Maybe shows are like this, but I couldn't watch the same movie over and over again. But I could play the same game over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. And it's harder for games nowadays to be better because, you have games like this come out. We're all still waiting on Half-Life 3. I mean...
Yeah.
It's interesting with the state of gaming, but I'm happy we got to live. I think in our childhoods we had the greatest era of gaming. That is when it was really hammered down.
The mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, we didn't know how good we had it because even the mediocre games were good.
Let me see here. This game came out when... Let's see.
These all came out around the same time.
Yeah, these three came out all around the same time, and then these three came out when this came out, and when this came out, and when this came out. So yeah, that year was great. You guys can't see exactly what we're talking about, but this came out at the same time. This came out in the same time.
We're talking about what you know from this. You guys know from our list, but like the games that came out in that late 2000s, early 2010s window.
Yeah.
Is really...
You could argue these two, but they were a bit later.
Yeah. It's just... Yeah, an insanely good era. I'm happy we got to have our childhoods in
Hell yeah.
that area. Where now, if I was a kid now, I'd probably kill myself with how terrible it is.
I'd probably poop my pants and say what the heck is going on with my pants.
Exactly. These kids haven't even seen the Longhorns win a national championship. So
That's
get out of
crazy.
here.
But that's pretty much it. We just wanted to talk more in depth about every game franchise that we had in our top 10.
Yeah.
And look forward to more people's opinions. I believe Grayson's going to have his top 10 list out, and Andrew as well, and Donovan as well, and Grant eventually, and Connor never. He sucks.
Yeah, screw Connor. But we're looking to do more and more with the channel and have more and more lists. Maybe down the road we'll talk about different games more in depth. I'm thinking maybe we could do like story analysis in the future, and maybe even like reviews of some sort. But again, thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you maybe soon.